This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome to the SAU Report. I'm Dana Thomas.
And I'm Lisa Stegall. With us today is Dr. Mary Hamilton White of the Curriculum Center at SAU. Also, we have joining us Donald Gensler, artist out of Little Rock. He and Dr. Hamilton are here today to talk about the Arts in Education program on the SAU campus. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Hamilton, as the director of the Curriculum Center, what all is involved with that and what do you do?
Well, the Curriculum Center is a support system for the School of Education and also for the teachers who are able to come to the center or participate in our activities. Part of our activities include an Arts and Education program, the Rosemary Ray Regional Arts and Education Center. And of course we do a lot of other things like Aegis programs and workshops and so forth. But today we're really going to talk about arts and education.
Mr. Gensler, when you're not working in the public schools with the arts and education, what is it that you do?
I'm a visual artist, and so I would work on my own work, and I also work in a number of different community-based programs around the state. So I'm not only in public schools, but I'll also work in different community-based programs around the state, working with both children and adults. And then I try and make sure to have enough time along with teaching to make sure that I'm really involving myself and that I'm really able to search out my own creative ideas.
Well, Dr. Hamilton, I know we're not going to talk too much about the Curriculum Center, but I was just wondering, what is the Curriculum Center's purpose on the SAU campus?
Well, the purpose is to do whatever we can to promote good education and good curriculum and to help our students get through the teaching program and to help them after they go in service. So that's why we serve education all the way from beginning to the rest of their in-service lives.
And the Arts in Education program is
part of it.
It's part of that. Now, what is the Arts in Education program?
That's a program to place artists in classrooms in public schools. And so this year we have 6 artists who are out in schools in regular classrooms, not in the art program in the school, but rather in the classroom with the elementary, secondary teacher.
Is this a national program?
Well, part of the funding to the Arkansas Arts Council comes from the national endowment. But this comes to the state, and in turn the state is our funding source. We have funds that are matched locally with the Arts Council funds, making us have a lot more in this area than we would have otherwise. So
people around the community help out with the money?
They do. Our schools all put in money. Actually, we have a core amount that was given to us in the form of an endowment from John and Rosemary Ray. And so our program operates off the interest from this endowment. And with this core money, the Rays wanted us to put this into an art program that would make schools better. And that's exactly what we've done. Then the schools in Columbia County and in Nevada and Emmett schools work with us. And so therefore we put all of our money together and then we take it to the Arts Council and they give us what they can as a match. So then we have a lot more money in all of our schools.
Mr. Gensler, are there any subjects that you feel cannot be enhanced by the Arts and Education program?
No, I think that's the basic premise of what we're doing, is that we're trying to involve the arts into all the different areas of the curriculum, so that, I guess more than arts and crafts in a sense that some people might think about it. We're thinking more in terms of ways of being creative in your teaching, or if your kids, ways of being creative in your learning and learning a little bit differently. So yeah, certainly there's no one subject area that works where other ones wouldn't. They all work equally well, and then the real problem is trying to figure out how do you make it work, and that's kind of the exciting part where I work with the teacher to develop that.
How do you work with the Curriculum Center on these projects in the education and arts?
The Curriculum Center serves as my connection to the schools. So it's a bridge between me and the schools, and the Curriculum Center at the same time is this hub of information where I can come and talk with Dr. Hamilton and other people and utilize their resources there, and then go out. They also take care of all my arrangements as far as staying on campus or any other arrangements that are necessary. They're the contact person that really works to bring me here so that then I can go out to the schools.
Dr. Hamilton, how does the Arts in Education program coordinate with the guidelines of the Arkansas Department of Education?
Well, we coordinate very well because the State Department of Education works closely with the Arts Council on this program. We use materials that Brenda Turner, the arts specialist, brings to us, and we try to take those into the schools to teachers. We use the arts frameworks as a focus for our lessons so that we address all of those things. Brenda is in touch with all the things we do and visits frequently, and is really very helpful for us, and so she knows exactly what we're doing and approves of the way, we think she does at least, of the things that we do in the schools. And you know, the Arkansas Department of Education is just a great help, and we also focus on Goals 2000, which I think all teachers are familiar with goals, getting students ready to learn, and having appropriate learning experiences so students will stay in school, and all of those other goals. And we think that the arts will keep students in school. A lot of students are motivated by the arts that ordinarily would just want to not be in school, would not be turned on if they didn't have the arts.
Well, Mr. Gensler, you know that some kids learn better by seeing things and doing hands-on activities. Is this what you're trying to do and trying to reinforce with the arts project?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a lot of different information about how people, not just children, but people process, you know, their learning, how their learning is processed. And, you know, people like Howard Gardner talk to us about, you know, 7 different intelligences, and maybe they're even formulating some other ones now. And I think that really rings true, you know, because we do learn in so many different ways. So that I will really try and inform the kids in a way. If a child is great with working with their hands to understand something, then they might not understand the abstract concept of numbers. But if I was to actually have them move some things around and construct something, that then they would use, they would maybe understand a little bit better the idea of, you know, that counting problem, you know, for example.
Do you have the supplies that you need for these projects, or do you, does the school provide them? How does that work? I bring some supplies that I feel I'm going to need for the residency. I don't really use any of my own supplies. I do have them, but I also try and find as many times as possible to do projects involving recyclable materials that I might collect, or I might ask the students to bring in.
and have ready for that time when I come. But then besides that, the Curriculum Center has kind of a bulk of supplies that we work from, that all the artists work from, visual artists. And then the schools also are asked to use what supplies they have. Very often too, I might try and have a project that involves supplies that are more common for a teacher, and just find a new and creative way of using those supplies so that they don't feel like, oh, well, I couldn't do that project simply because those supplies are so, extra. Those are something just an artist might have, which is definitely not the case.
Well, Dr. Hamilton, where did the idea of the arts and education come from, and how did it end up at SAU?
Well, this has been in operation since 1987 here at Southern Arkansas University. And the idea, I had worked with this program before in Texarkana, but here at SAU, I first thought about it when the former president came to me and suggested this, and we were working with visual and performing arts, and we had just received the notice that we had this endowment, and the Rays were very eager to have the arts promoted, and we saw this as being one of the best ways to promote arts, to get it out there in the public with the children so that they would grow up appreciating the arts and feeling that they could take risks and be creative people. And they love it. You'd not believe some of the programs and projects that the children who are not the highest achieving students do, and they do wonderful art.
Dr. Hamilton, do you go to these schools and oversee any of the projects, or do you just...
I try to visit, and especially when we have something new going on that I want to make sure works, but I stay in very close touch, and we have an advisory board made up of members from each school from which we work. And so we get together and we talk about it, and we talk about which artists we would like to have and which arts areas we would like to have. And and we write our proposals together. We talk about what we're wanting to focus on in the future. And this next year, we're planning to focus on multicultural and transcultural curriculum, realizing that multicultural, we're talking about what goes on here in the United States with our various cultures, and then we want to learn about cultures in other regions of the world. So we've gone from currently being interested totally in Arkansas, tying everything back, bringing in something about Arkansas. Now we're going to bring the world a little bit closer.
Good. Mr. Gensler, how do you get the community involved with all these projects? You said that you work with more adults and you work with students too. How do you do the projects with the community?
Well, I work with a number of different projects, not just my residencies here at SAU. So I work with projects in Little Rock. One project, Umoja, involves both children and adults, and so some of those projects will mostly here, and they might involve specific community groups. Here, the way that things happen in influencing the community is that we really do have our main focus, our main attention is towards the schools. And so when the adults that we're working with are mostly, the teachers there at the schools that we're team teaching, or those teachers are then participating in my residency, either way or both, and that the kids are really being influenced by that experience of saying, you don't have to do this just in one way, but there's so many different possibilities, so many creative ways to get something done, so that you begin to recognize a problem, as more of a challenge than a burden, And so I guess that's basically the idea with their community involvement, because then those kids will grow up to be adults, obviously, and have an important say within the community. We do one other thing. We do have workshops that are offered in the evening, and I'm finishing up a workshop right now on figure drawing, and so that does involve both some people from the SAU community and from the community at large, and it's offered just to anyone through the same funding sources, and that allows people to come in and experience some more of what the arts and education program might be about, although this is really geared not towards a curriculum-based idea, but more towards a workshop in fine arts and drawing, and in specifically figure drawing.
Do you usually have good response from the community when you go in and do workshops like that?
Yeah, I think mostly, and Dr. Hamilton would probably agree with me that there's a pool of people who tend to participate in her workshops. The workshops are generally open to the whole public. They are open to everyone. It's just that I guess very often there's certain people that continue to pick up on it. So I definitely would encourage anybody else, and I try to when I'm at schools and we're going to have a workshop, to try to talk with people and say, hey, can you talk to some of your high school students who you think might be interested in this type of thing? Or do you have a friend in the community who's been interested in art? Here's an opportunity for them. Come to SAU, take a workshop. So class size, I think, varies, but I think they have a consistent pool, and that's why they continue to do it. But I think they're always searching for new people to come in and experience, all the things that are offered here.
We'll be starting with Joe Patterson doing acrylic workshops next week, too. So we'd be happy for the public to call in and join in with the acrylic.
Right. Well, Dr. Hamilton, I know you've been talking about the Rosemary Ray Education Center and everything. What is the purpose of this?
Well, it's simply to integrate the arts into the community and the public schools and our whole community life. And we have a lot of wonderful exhibits there. We're going to be having an exhibit by Joe Patterson when she comes. We'll be having an exhibit by Karen Emmert, who is another one of our artists. She's from Emerson. We'll be showing our really big one, which will be an exhibit of all the works of the schools, the artists and their students. And so that's an April one. And we'll have a big reception on April 4th, I believe. And then we'll be showing the students' work all during the month of April. So that will get all of our school children that have been working with artists, and we can see just what they've been doing. And we hope all the parents will come and the teachers will come and bring the students.
That's great. Mr. Gensler, do schools ever restrict you from doing anything, any projects that you'd like to do with them?
No, I mean, I think there's, certain things that you have to take into consideration depending on the age level that you're working with. And at times, I think there's a certain level of trust that you have to begin to build up with the teacher or with the school administration. I think generally they know what the purpose of this program is. So when I come in, I'm talking to them about it, and I might say, we're going to do a batik project with hot wax, and all of a sudden, eyes go up and they think, this is 4th grade, what are you talking about? And so after we talk more about what the project really entails and how it's going to tie into the curriculum and how we arrange that, not the whole class at one time is going to be doing that, but it'll be a separate group. It just takes clarification and some time to think about what's the best way to set it up. Often I'll talk to the teacher and I'll say, hey, I need to use an iron. What do I need to do? What do you think is the best way for me to do this? What area of the room? How many kids do you think could do this? So it's really a time of discussion. I don't ever feel like I'm told not to do something. I usually just discuss what the possibilities are.
And most kids in this area I know are not really exposed to art that much. And what are their reactions whenever you go into the school and you say, we're going to do an art project today? do they act scared of this, or are they really open to it?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I do often have a situation where children are intimidated by the arts. Now, when I come in, I might come in as a character, so already they're intimidated by me because I'm like flopping around and acting like some strange character, and I do that as a way of just introducing myself a little bit off the cuff, so that they see that I'm willing to take chances, I'm willing to take risks and do something different. I do often sometimes get the feeling that, hey, I'm not confident in what I'm doing. Can I really be doing this? And that's the process that we're working through. That's what we're kind of really trying to develop, is saying, hey, you're all right. You can. Your creative ideas can work. You don't have to worry about what your friend next door is doing, and if your friend is going to think, is that okay or not? Is that acceptable or not? And that hopefully I'm able to work with the teacher so that the teacher can learn different ideas and different ways to approach, creative teaching to their kids. That's what I can offer, when I come in.
So this is not an art class. What do you do when you walk into a classroom? Like, you told me about some masks that you made with some students at Walker Elementary. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's not an art class, and I also am not an art teacher. I'm not a teacher in the public school sense. I'm an artist, and I'm coming in to share whatever ideas and knowledge I have, and I'm trying to come up with some creative ideas of integrating their curriculum units into some type of arts project, so like we were talking about. So at Walker, we made masks, and they collected newspaper ahead of time, and they developed, we did paper mache masks. We talked about what is the paper mache. We used a wheat paste. We got into the science of it a little bit, the carbohydrates, and that same idea of starch being in that. We even did a test for starch with iodine. So there's all these things that reinforce things they've maybe learned in school. And they get that aha feeling. Oh yeah, I remember that, And so we try to continue. And then they made these masks, and they were studying some literature on Beauty and the Beast and some other things. And so I thought, well, why don't we become another character? Why don't we try and put our mask on and become someone else? We talked about the whole idea of a symbol of a mask. With newspaper as well. Another school right next door there, I can't remember where, I think Nevada, I think we made slippers, sandals out of newspaper, because that was a way to show, to use our resources, in an interesting way.
Right. Well, Dr. Hamilton, how does a school become selected to be involved in this?
Well, this is totally their own decision. They hear about it from another school or from another teacher, and they just decide they want to become part of the group. And so we're always happy to have new people, because our mission is to have more arts involvement. And we just are happy if they want to join us.
It seems that this program has a really wide scope to it. So because the kids, they're learning about different subjects in a different way, and they're learning art, and they're also learning different things about the world. Is there any other goals that you hope to reach with this?
Well, I think one thing I'd like to say is that our intent is not to change the curriculum topics, but to just reinforce them. We don't go in there with our own program to bring them something, but to become part of what they're doing and enhance it.
Let's see. Mr. Gensler, how long have you been doing these kinds of projects with the schools?
Probably since as long as I've been in Arkansas. I've been here since 1995, and I began by working with the Arkansas Arts Center in community-based projects, and then I got onto the AIE roster, which is a roster that's created by the Arts Council for a pool of artists who are eligible to work in these school-based programs or community-based programs, arts and education. So really since 1995, although I did do some work beforehand in more of volunteer capacity and a bit of teaching earlier on, but in Arkansas since 1995.
Yeah, good, cool. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.
We've been talking about arts and education. I'm Lisa Stegall,
And I'm Dana Thomas.
and this has been the SAU Report.
Thanks for watching.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.